Hey, peace everyone. It's your brother Rod Tahuti coming at you with another video on 5 ways to counteract negative intentions. Regularly, as I stated before in a prior video, being outside of your comfort zone or regular environment exposes you to a lot of negative energy or potentials that you usually wouldn't encounter being in your own setting. So just based on my experience and living on a daily basis, I've kind of incorporated means in order to counteract these negative intentions or negative energies that you're bound to experience on a regular basis. And kind of the one thing I wanted to elaborate on is that, being consciousness or spiritually aware is a gift and a curse. You know, most individuals only kind of state the benefits of being conscious or spiritually aware. All this meditating and being on one vibration in the chord and experiencing the best in life and always being happy. While that may be true, in certain cases, it also has a lot of negative attributes as well. Being that when you're more spiritually aware, you're more able to pick up on negative influence or energies and you know just the negative emotions that people give off. You're more in tune with positive forces, and just based on the law of the universe as far as polarities are concerned, or the law of fatal attractions, you're bound to experience that counteraction against what you're trying to output as far as a conscious or spiritually aware person. But what I do want to say before I get into these 5 points is that we shouldn't too much focus on what's good versus evil. When you really do get down into studying the metaphysics or esoteric side of this knowledge, you'll see that there is no clear line to draw between good and evil, and that most of our definition or conceptions that we have about that is just based on religion or indoctrination. But there's no such thing as good and evil. There's positive and negative forces. Well, someone would say, well, Ra, how's that any different from good or evil? But when you look at it outside of this earthly plane, we live in a universe that's quite destructive. On any given basis, you have planets colliding into each other, stars exploding, black holes swallowing up, whole solar systems and planets. So we live in a pretty destructive universe, but at the end of the day, it's not really negative, but something that coexists with that already positive in nature to kind of create a balance, or what you would call mayat. And it's imperative to live in that mayat balance, in order to persevere or learn or continue to grow in enlightenment, or for creative forces to continue to perpetuate and create. Another example I would want to give is we have what's called antimatter, which is destructive in nature, but you also have creative matter, which is what you see on the physical plane. And when you look out into the stars, you see the physical aspect of creation. But we know that through emergence of matter and antimatter, there is a balance that stabilizes the universe. So it's not that antimatter is evil, or bad or anything. It just exists in that Mayatian balance. So that's what we have to kind of incorporate into our, theology and thought process, to kind of not get into the behavior of labeling something good or evil, but noticing that some things are positive and some things are negative. And when you actually look up the definition of positive and negative, it has nothing to do with the indoctrination that religion has gave you. It either means something with or something without. When you look at a proton, it's something in addition versus an electron, which just means something that's been taken away. But you wouldn't call the electron negative and the proton positive, as far as describing their behaviors or whatsoever. It's just the nature that they exist in. But to get into these 5 points, and not hold you up for long, first thing I want to say is to counteract negative intentions with positive thinking. And that would pretty much be a go figure for most people. But when you think about it, as the older philosophy stated, especially from the Christ figure in Christianity, and prior to that, it says, as a person thinketh, so shall they be. So if you fall into the trap of listening to the news, or listening to the hype, or the gossip, or the biasness on a daily basis, you're going to ultimately program your subconscious into projecting that as a reality. So even though you may not wish for things to go opposite of what you may want them to be, or for things to be bad, or whatsoever, if you continue to feed into that negative energy, you're going to ultimately make that a reality. So you just want to think positive thoughts, and it doesn't have to be on the level of, kumbaya, or everyone getting together in peace. But as far as knowing your purpose and knowing that you're on the path of enlightenment. So keep that in thought to kind of deflect that those negative intentions. And also, you don't want to focus on negative intentions. On any given day, we may come across people that, you may try to run us off the road and road rage, give us the finger, give us some type of attitude that we're not deserving of. But the more you focus on that and what they're doing, the more power you give them over you. And ultimately, without you knowing it, your day will end up, contrary to what you wanted it to be, all because you focused too much on that and you gave that individual or intention too much energy. And then you want to understand that you're vibrating more as a conscious person on the heart chakra rather than the root chakra. The root chakra is actually the lowest chakra, and even though it's an energy vortex, it's still one of the lowest chakras, and which grounds you to this physical reality. So most people, and it's also where the Kundalini resides before awakening through enlightenment. So if you have a diagram of the chakras, you'll know that the heart chakra is above the root chakra, and that's what most of your individuals who are not conscious or spiritually aware are kind of vibrating on at this time. And just have to be aware of that and continue vibrating on that higher level of love and enlightenment. Number two is to be aware that these forces do exist, but not be critical of them. As I explained earlier, you don't want to be critical in the means of, what that person's doing is evil or bad, versus what I'm trying to do is good. You don't want to be too critical and regulate things down into that manner, as far as your religious indoctrination has done. Kind of drew this line between what's good and evil, and there's no gray area or between. And as I explained to you before, it's more in depth, than that. So just kind of be aware of that. Because as I stated earlier, you have all sorts of things in nature. You have things of a positive and negative, energy potential, but they have to work together, to create or infuse, for something to operate or behave in a certain manner. And, as our ancestors believe, what happens as far as a cosmic is concerned also happens on the microcosmic, which is ourselves. So what they witnessed out in the universe, as far as these destructive forces, and the past and the behaviors of the celestial bodies, is also what occurs inside of man as far as behaviors, attitudes, and traits. And that's what a lot of your myths were based on, just the psychology of humans and how they operate. Number three, you want to try to strengthen your macabre or auric field. Most people in metaphysics know what these terms are, but when you break down the word macabre, you get three syllables: mer-ka-ba. So mer, that was the Egyptian word for pyramid, which through my studies I see the pyramids were not only a structure to entune the body of the pharaoh or any of the royal family. They were also structures that were aligned with celestial bodies, and to kind of intake the light, in the higher frequencies from the celestial bodies and kind of bring it into the pyramid, whether it be for traditional rites, or for priests going through stages of initiation, which is for another video or lesson. So Mer means light, Ka means spirit, and Ba means the body. So most people would tell you that Merkaba is kind of what you activate as far as to kind of travel or ascend to a higher level. But it can also be a means of creating a field around yourself that kind of that negative intentions can't penetrate. So you want to kind of study and try to activate that, and try to encase yourself within that light structure in order to deflect any type of negative energy or whatsoever. And that also goes in tune with your auric field. Science proves that human beings emit an electromagnetic field, and when you're in close proximity with other people, you can kind of rub off some of yours, or either they can rub off on you, so you can take in negative energy from other people. So you want to kind of strengthen your auric field, and you can do that by just closing your eyes and meditating a bright white light around your whole entire body. And it could be as wide as you want it to be, but that will kind of help you envision keeping your positive energy on the inside, and not having any negative energy penetrate that. Or, as I stated earlier, negative as far as counteracting what you're trying to do on this physical or spiritual level. Number 4, you don't want to waste your energy on others unless they're actually seeking it. One of the things I've done, and I see a lot of people who first get into consciousness do, is that they begin to learn all of this and that, and they get into these different doctrines or this information, and they just want to share it with everyone. While that may be beneficial at times, you don't want to force what you're experiencing on other people. You don't want to force information on other people. What you want to do is, unless they're actually looking for answers or seeking it, that's the only time you actually indulge in sharing information. Because if not, you're opening yourself up to be a conduit for negative reaction, or energy potential, and obviously that energy, rubbing off on you. You may tell someone something that, they're not ready for, or they don't want to hear, and they're likely to react in a, negative manner. So, even the Bible in its, esoteric language, says, unless someone seeketh, that's the only time they will find. So unless someone wants information, unless they are trying to get out of the indoctrination they were previously in, that's the only time you would share information with them as far as any spirituality or consciousness is concerned. And also, one more note to that, the heart has to be receptive to even contemplate some of the things that, conscious people get into. All this talk about Merkaba and auric fields and negative or positive energy, some people would consider that blasphemous. So the only reason you're vibrating at the level you are is because your heart is more receptive of that information. It knows that it's more to life out there than what's been given to us over the course of our lifetimes. And all people are not on that same path of enlightenment, or they hadn't reached that yet. And not to say that you're higher than them and they're below you, but everyone is on a different path. So you can't rush anybody into anything they're not ready for. And the last way to kind of counteract any negative vibrations or intentions is to just kind of realize, like I said before, everyone is not on the same path of consciousness, and everyone's not supposed to be. That there's always going to be a few that take in the information in order to save the others. And just realize that some people, even though you've become more spiritually aware, awakened, or however you want to term it, just realize that some people are still entrapped in this third dimensional reality, which the elite want to keep us trapped in. So the third dimensional reality, you only focus on what you can conceive based on the senses, which science has proved is actually an illusion. What the senses perceive, that's not all there is to, in existence or reality or whatever you may want to term it. But some people are just kind of focused on the daily routine of, going to work, getting caught up, in the daily functions that, life kind of regulates you in. So try not to judge them too much. And like I said, don't try to shove any information down their throat, but let yourself be a kind of image or shining light for them to see, and kind of start to try to wake up, out of this reality that, keeps us on a low dead level. You'll see individuals every day, once you become awakened, and it's not judging, but you see that they're kind of in a state to where, they don't have any hope to continue, to live or anything, or, do anything outside of, what society has said this is what you're supposed to do, once becoming of age or whatsoever. But that was just my 5 tips to kind of counteract any negative vibrations. And these are not, absolutely not, fireproof methods or the only methods out there. There may be other things that people incorporate, which I would like to hear and hope individuals share, in the comment section. But thank you again. This is Ra Tahuti signing off for today. Peace.